Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope everybody enjoyed their day and you're not too full right now. I know it's always a busy cooking and eating day, and I just wanted everybody to know that tonight's video is just as much for those of you that have been alone today as it is for me. So tonight I'm using, and let me see what I did with the stamp box. There it is right here. I'm using the Blessings of Home. This is a stamp set that will be released in January with the new catalog. It is a really pretty sweet. I fell in love with the flowers. I love coloring flowers. And I created two different cards, one I colored, as you can see here, and this is the same image here, but this one I stamped and embossed and then added some rose gold paper to make it a little bit more elegant. So I hope you like them. So before we get started, I just wanted to say the Kathy, I hope I say your name right, Fjorst, you're the winner of the Dazzling Diamonds paper. So if you would PM me your address so I can get that in the mail to you, I'll get it out as soon as I get your address. Okay. Hey, Do, how are you? So we're going to start with this card here. This one I'm going to do last because it's coloring and I did not color the image for the card tonight. I figured I would do some of the coloring so you could see how I color. And so we'll start with this one first. Let me just pull my stuff out. I'm using Very Vanilla, and I'm using the rose gold. Um, Gold. It's actually gold and rose gold metallic specialty paper, and they come in a little pack of 6x6 sheets, and they're in here upside down. But they're really, really pretty. Let me just pull out the gold so you can see. It's nice and sparkly. Really pretty paper. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Fran. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're all doing well. It was a quiet day. Like I said in the beginning, this video is for just as much for me as it is for the people that are alone today. Um, I was actually alone. My husband slept all day, so thank goodness I did not cook today. But so I'm using the Very Vanilla and the Rose Gold, and we're going to start with our basic card base, which is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4.25. I will have all the measurements on the in the group in a PDF tomorrow. Okay. Then I have another piece of Very Vanilla, and I have to just make sure that my layers are the right size. For some reason, I got all my measurements messed up today. So I'm going to use an additional piece of Very Vanilla, which is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And we are going to actually use tear and tape. I forgot to fill my seal up, and I didn't like the looks of the glue on the Very Vanilla today for some reason. I don't know if I used too much but it showed through my layer. It doesn't usually happen with my basic white, but it did today with the very vanilla. So I may have been just a little bit heavy-handed on the glue today. I'm not really too sure what happened. Hi, Margaret. Hello, Karen. Oh, that's right. You got to take care of your horses. I hope they're going to get a nice Thanksgiving treat. Okay, so let's get this paper off. This is really a pain. I don't know why I didn't refill my seal. That was my mistake. I think I'm going to grab some and refill it, make it easier. Tearing tape I just hate all the paper. Okay, so we're just going to layer this on the front of the card. Making sure it is even. Now, for the rose gold layer, I was going to use I use the soft succulent glittered vellum. I was going to use the rose gold instead, and you actually can, but I changed it up, and I had already cut it out of the center of my rose gold layer. It's a perfect way so all of this paper does not go to waste, because I am going to layer this again with another layer of the very vanilla. When I stamped and colored, I actually, for this card here, I used Memento. I've never had any trouble with Memento. And I colored right on the very vanilla cardstock. Okay, so we're going to just layer this on the front of the card. Now that time I did use glue. Excuse me, because I don't have to, nope, that's plus, because I don't have to worry about the glue showing through. Let me see if I have and that's plus. Oh my goodness. And that's plus. I have tons of, here we go. Sorry about that. I'm trying to pull out, I want to pull out a seal. While I'm thinking about it, let me just quick change this, because I'm going to need it for the center of the card. Should have done this before, but I didn't even think about it. Thankfully, it's a quick switch. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I cut the center out so I could utilize more of the paper. And then I took another layer of the very vanilla and I ran it through the cut and emboss machine with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. Now I'm just going to quick trim this off a little bit, because I want actually more of the rose gold showing through. I wanted an extra bit of layer. Now with the emboss layer, this layer, I am actually going to glue. I don't want to risk pushing on it with too much pressure and flattening out the embossing. So we're just gonna make sure that's even. Okay. And then, like I said, I die cut. This is the Flourishing Fern. And I die cut it with the Soft Succulent Glittered Vellum. And then I did a second one. I'm going to cut it apart. And then in the Blessings of Home dies, there are these cute little sprigs of leaves that we're going to use. And then hopefully they're all here. But there's also these little flowers. Let me just make sure they're here. Yep. And they cut out in threes. And you'll notice I added them to the image on the front of the card. So let's just put this aside for a second and I'll show you how I did the image. The extra piece of paper. I'm going to grab my Stamparatus. And I just wanted to, so I just want to make sure that I have this in the right spot. And that looks good. Okay, so I have my Stamparatus and I have the large floral stamp. And what I did was grab my crumb cake and I inked up my image. And stamped. So you get a really, hi Marilyn, Sharon, right? Not Michael. Happy Thanksgiving, honey. Okay, so I stamped my image. Then I went back and let me just grab a white here quick. And I just want to, I ruined my Versamark pad today because I forgot to wipe off my stamp, and as you can see it's now got crumb cake on it, but I'm just going to Versamark it up now. Now you can see how the image looks just stamped. It's very pretty, but now we're going to add our Versamark. Make sure it's stamped really good. And I'm going to just do it one more time to make sure I got everything on the image. That's the one great thing about the Stamparatus. You can restamp and it goes in exactly the same position. So we're just going to take this out. Put that aside. Excuse me. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'm adding clear embossing powder. Now you'll notice in the catalog, the jars of embossing powder now come in a trio. This one comes in the basics pack, and I believe it's, I'll check, gold, nope, black, white, and clear. Metallics is gold, silver, and copper, I believe. So now I'm going to just heat this up. And I know it's really noisy, but I want to show you the difference. I just want to make sure I got it all. Okay, I think I got it all. Let's put this back in the jar. It's almost like glitter. It gets all over. Okay, so now you can see it has a little bit of a sheen to it. I like the effect. Yeah, the clear is really pretty. I was even going to just stamp it without the ink underneath, but I really do like the effect of the crumb cake and the very vanilla. So next, what you would do, of course, is grab the coordinating die, run it through your cut and emboss machine, and this is what you get. Really very pretty. And I actually did this one on a piece that I had messed up. So let's grab some dimensionals, and we are going to pop this up onto the front of the card. Now, when you put these on, you may run into a little bit of trouble when you want to add the little sprigs behind, but you just have to give them a little trim. So I put it this way with the flower facing up. And you know what? Let's do it this way. Let's grab this. I'm actually not going to put the whole thing. I'm going to trim it right about here. And then I'm just going to trim around the leaves. And I'm going to add a bit of glue. And before I put that image down, I'm going to glue this in place. So I want it to be right about here, just like that. So this piece I'm going to use for the bottom. So I'm just going to trim off this center that I cut off. And this leaf here, I'm just going to round it off a little bit. And then the same thing with this one here. This is where I cut it apart. So I just want to round that leaf off just a tad so it pretty much looks like the other leaves. And this is going to go here, just about like that. So let's glue this one. Instead of worrying about tucking it, I'll glue it down beforehand. Okay? Let's just add a little glue on this leaf here. And then we'll add some here, just to hold that down a little. Now let's put the image on, because the rose gold sprigs will be easy to stick under. So we'll take off all these dimensionals, all the paper, and whoops, we'll lay it right about there. And like I said, we're going to grab these little sprigs. Now this one, and I didn't even take it out, I'm going to grab my pokey tool, has little pieces in the leaves. I just want to get those out. And this one I'm going to adhere down here to fill in the center of these leaves. So I'm just going to lift it up a little bit and stick it under. And then for the top one, I'm just going to, again, it's going to be the center. Let's see if there's enough room to stick this in. Yep. Okay. Now I have my little flowers. that I cut out of the rose gold. Now, before I do that, I'm going to grab my pearls, my ivory blend. I didn't want stark white pearls on those little flowers or the corners, so I am going to color 5 pearls. I'll give them a chance to dry while I'm finishing up. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I want to put these little flowers somewhere that corresponds to the flowers on the front of this. You can pop them up if you want. I decided to just adhere them. I was having a hard time picking these little stinkers up. I should have got my pokey tool. So we're going to put that one right there. Stuck to my finger. And I'm just matching the size with the flower that is stamped on the image. And then we're going to stick this one down here. And then you'll notice this one, the middle didn't come out. These, the middle did. So we're just going to grab our pearls and we're going to lay them right in the center of these flowers. Oops. Stick that over a little bit. And then one more. And then the additional 2, I just wanted to fill these corners, top right and bottom left. And there's the front of our card. Now for the inside of the card, I actually did grab the top sprig so it wouldn't go to waste. So we're just going to cut this off. I'm going to poke out the pieces or the piece that I forgot. When you try to die cut the rose gold and the gold glittery paper, I did have a hard time. It cuts very nicely, but there are just those little pieces that want to get stuck. I didn't want to pull it too hard, so I take my pokey tool and just go down the edge. There we go. Okay, so that'll be for the inside. So we'll put that on the side. Let's grab our center. So I have 2 layers of Very Vanilla, and it's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, 5 1/4 by 4, and I am using the sentiment, "You are a real blessing to everyone around you," and I stamped it in the crumb cake to keep the front. I want to make sure I have the right layer. The front colors on the inside. Now, I usually don't do this, but I did add my sticker so I can try to get my sentiment in here straight. And that looks pretty good, actually. It does help. And then we're going to put this, oops, adhere this onto our layer. Making sure it is centered. And then I'm just going to add some glue. I want to make sure the edges at least have glue so it doesn't pick up. And then we're just going to adhere it right here in the corner. You have to hold it. Hey, Pam, how are you? Thank you. Hope everybody's belly is full today. And then we're going to adhere this into the inside of the card. And just to be on the safe side, like I said, I had so much trouble with my glue today and it's showing through. So we're going to just use the seal. Let's add this to the center of the card. And there we go. Nice, quick and easy, elegant card. You could actually use it for any occasion. So I hope you like that one. I really enjoyed that card. Now for this one, again, I started with a very vanilla base. And this one I actually crinkled a little bit and I didn't cut a new one, so we'll just use this one. And I did do it in the landscape, and it is the basic card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and then I added my layer of Very Vanilla. Let me just see. Okay, let's add this layer. And I pretty well followed the same base as the other card, just switching up the colors. I figured it's autumn, it's Thanksgiving, we needed some, that wasn't good, we needed some flowers, the color of the season. Okay, and then I'm going to add a layer of the pumpkin pie. Now this one I can do in glue because this cardstock seems to be just a little thicker. And I use the pumpkin pie to match the flowers. So we're just going to layer this on the front. And then I also have a layer of the Very Vanilla. And like I said, I'll have the measurements in the group tomorrow. And this is embossed with the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. Okay, so there's our card base. Now for the flowers, as I mentioned before, it is on Very Vanilla. I stamped it in Memento, and when I color an image, or I want to color an image, I always stamp and die cut it before I color. Because sometimes when you put your die cut on your image and you roll it through, it has a tendency sometimes to shift. And if I took my time and colored this whole image and messed it up while I was die cutting, I would be very upset. So I won't color the whole image. I'll color, thanks, Donna. I'll color some of it so you can get an idea of what I do when I am coloring an image. Because this one did take me a long time. So I'm going to start with some dark Mossy Meadow, some dark Old Olive, and some light Old Olive. If you've ever or saw my Patreon coloring class When I color, I like to have a dark, a medium, and a light. This way I can gradually change from my shadows to the lighter color without really deep lines unless I want them. Now in here you'll see the image itself, and that's a little blurry, but the image itself has shadow built into it, the artist line shadows. So I'm going to base my shadowing almost on the artist's shadows. Yeah, I hear you, Donna. I mean, there'd be words coming out of my mouth. Okay, so I'm going to start, actually no I'm not. I am going to start with the light old olives to color my leaves. And I don't use the brush unless I'm doing a wash of color. You want to make sure you have something under your image because they do have a tendency to bleed, but I use the nib. I have more control over the amount of ink that comes out of the nib than out of the brush. So here are the artist lines. I am just going to, with the light now, completely color in the leaf. And I thought I was starting with the darker color. That's why I said the artist lines. I lost my mind. Now the reason I color it in, I want to give the section of the leaf a base color. It allows the colors to blend a little easier if you give it a base color. So now I'm going to go to my dark, and this is the dark Mossy Meadow. And I am going to add in my shadows. And I'm going right along the petal of that flower, because this petal is in front of this leaf. So it's going to cast a shadow on that leaf. So now I'm going to take my dark old olive and I am going to expand on this green, but I'm going to expand it into the artist's lines. So I'm just going to expand this out, add my vein of the leaf, and then extend the color out and just go with the artist lines. I'm going to go back to my light old olive. You do know that when you color in a space with one coat, if you go over it again, it's going to darken. So I don't want to color this whole space because I do want some highlight on the leaf. So I am going to go along the color I just put down just to blend that edge, because I don't want the edge to be that rough. And then I'm just going to flick some color to the end of the leaf. And I'm going to let that dry. Once it dries, you can look to see how the leaf looks, and then you can add some more dark. So we're going to head to this leaf here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to color the whole leaf in. Just a nice quick coloring. I'm using the dark Mossy Meadow. Now this leaf is behind this leaf, so we do have a shadow right there. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my dark old olive. I'm going to go over the edge of that line, and I'm just going to go over the artist's shadows. grab my light, go over the edge of that line and extend the color just like that. Now for me, the dark is not that visible here, and in order to see light, you need to have dark. So I would go back and add some darkness, and then add my dark old olive and extend that out a little bit, just like that. And once it's done, I'll come back in with my pencil, a white pencil, and just add some lightness to the end of the leaf. And that's how I color my leaves. Now you'll notice that I did use 2 different greens. I wanted to distinguish between the leaves for this flower and the leaves for this flower. Now this one I used some dark shaded spruce, and I'm going to add in some light granny apple green. And I'm going to follow the same path. Let me just check this first. I like to make sure. Okay, that's good. So I'll grab my granny apple green, and I'm going to go through the same thing. Color in the spot, grab my dark, get that shadow area, grab the medium tone, extend that color out. Now where the granny apple green is a completely different color, this time I'm going to go over the whole piece and let that all just blend together. And I'm in a shadow. So then you can see as it's drying, the tips of the leaf are much lighter, but I will go back in and grab some white and just add a little bit of white. Now for the flowers, I'm going to change it up a little bit because I wanted to, and just to show you different techniques you can use. For this flower here, I have the dark pumpkin, light pumpkin, and then mango medley. I could also have used So Saffron, Daffodils Delight. Let's just see. There's the dark So Saffron. Now, if I wanted to change this flower to all yellow, this one I added a deeper red in the center. This one I think I'll do in yellow. Now for yellows are pretty hard to work with. The best way to add shadow to yellow is to use purple. And I'm going to use the light Highland heather. And for this one, we know the center of the flower puffs out a little bit. And the artist did draw their shadows around the bottom of the petals. So for my shadow, I am going to cover them over in light Highland heather. I know, sounds crazy, right? I'm going to grab some mango medley. I am going to go over the Highland heather, and I'm going to extend it past the line. So we're just going to add some color, and we're going to go over that purple, and we're going to extend the color out just like that. Once I'm finished, that to me is not dark enough shadow, so I'll go back to my lavender or my Highland heather, So now I'm going to use the light mango medley. And again, I'm going to extend this color out, touching the dark mango medley. Right here, this should be darker. So I am going to outline this flower in the Highland Heather because this petal is underneath. And then I'm going to grab my light Daffodil Delight. I'm going to extend and color in the rest of that petal. I'm going to go back to my Highland Heather and I am going to darken up these shadows. I know it seems scary, but like I said, in order to see light, you need to have dark. So I'll go back to my dark mango medley. I'm going to extend that color out, just like that. Go to my light mango medley, extend it out, and I'm just like flicking as I go around the edges. I'm not forcing the color down to get blotches. I'm just doing a quick little flick, hitting the first color. So here's my first color. I'm just hitting it right from the end and flicking it out. This way it'll allow the colors to blend where they meet, and then you'll have a second color above it. So again, we're going to hit our light Daffodil Delight and fill in that space. We'll do one more petal so you can see how I would do the next one. Again, I'm going to use the artist's shadows, just like that. I'm going to use my dark mango medley. I'm going to go over the purple and I'm going to extend the color out. Now, for this petal here and for all the subsequent petals, you'll notice, if you can see, right along the edge of this petal that I'm doing right now, I left a little tiny space because I want to show a difference between these two petals other than the shadow. So when I'm done, I will add a lighter color to the end there. So you'll notice for my light mango medley, I'm staying away from that edge. I'm extending my color. Grabbing my light Daffodil Delight. Now I will go along that edge and fill in the rest of that petal. Again, it's not dark enough for me. And I don't even have my blue pencil out so I could show you. I'm going to actually grab my dark Highland Heather. I'll show you the difference. So this one is the dark Highland Heather. Now that looks really dark. It's like, oh my gosh, what did you do? But I'm going to go over it again with my dark mango medley. And I'm going over the Highland Heather, extending it out. These are alcohol markers, so what's going to happen, there's more alcohol in this marker than there is in this marker. So it's going to blend that color out and it's going to make it more dull. So I'm just going to extend it with my light mango medley, and then color the rest in with my Daffodil Delight. I'm just going to extend that color. Now once it dries, looking at the petal, I know here's a shadow, so it's probably folded in the middle, so it would be lighter here, and it would be lighter here. And all it will do is add just a bit of a highlight. You really can't tell. It's not that noticeable until you take a picture. You'll notice the brightness in that on that part of the flower. And I would go right around the flower doing the same thing. Same thing with these flowers. I would want these centers and where the artist has her drawing, her lines, dark. So I would go with some cinnamon cider and fill in. Now this one I didn't wash first, but those are the artist's lines. I'm going to grab some dark pumpkin pie, and I'm going over the cinnamon cider, extending the color. I'm not going to the end of the petals. And then I'm going to grab some light pumpkin pie, and I'm going to extend it out, but I'm not going to go to the edge of that petal. Let's use some So Saffron. I'm just going to go around the edge with So Saffron. Now again, that's not dark enough. This is the dark cinnamon cider. And I think what I did use is red. I'm just going to extend this out a little bit more. And then a little bit more, not hitting the end of those petals. And where's my light So Saffron? Let's use light So Saffron. And I'm just going to get the edge of that petal. Now to show you, I'm almost positive I used cherry cobbler. So, we got to clean the tip. It's got a little... I'm going to do the artist's lines. Grab my dark pumpkin pie, and we're going to go over that red and extend it out. And then we can use the light pumpkin pie. And you know what? I'm actually going to do dark Cajun Craze. And then dark pumpkin pie. And then light pumpkin pie. And then you would, and that's just how you would do even these small flowers, petal by petal. That's why the images take so long. You would go each petal at a time and color it individually instead of coloring the whole flower and then putting shadows in. You would go from petal to petal to petal and color them all in to get your image to look like this. So I don't have an image. I did not color a second image. But for this card, what I did was I popped up my image and I put the flower facing down and I cut out some sprigs, this time in Mossy Meadow and Old Olive. And I'm just going to, oops, this one. I switched them up and used different sprigs so they would be different types of leaves. So this one would go here. This one would go here. And then I grabbed the great part about the open weave ribbon. Just gonna stick this aside for a second. I grabbed some pale papaya open weave ribbon. Let's get some of these out of the way. And my dark pumpkin pie. And this ribbon actually colors beautifully. So I gave it a nice covering of pumpkin pie. So you can see I was thinking about Thanksgiving when I thought of my colors. So we'll let that dry. And you'll notice I have 3 pearls on the smaller flowers on the image. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I used Daffodil Delight. And then I have 1 pearl in the corner that I used the dark pumpkin pie. And there's the ribbon. And for the inside, all I did was stamp the other image that's in the stamp set. And I did it, of course, in pumpkin pie. So just ink that up. And it's this way. I always mess it up. And I just stamped so it's part of it is off. And layered this together for the inside of the card. Now the have a perfect birthday. It is just on a strip of Very Vanilla. Let's turn this over because I see a little mark. And I'm going to grab some memento and I'll just stamp it out and show you what I did. As you can see, I don't have, I didn't put the sticker on this one. So let's see how it comes out. Nope, crooked, so I can't, I'd have to trim it. So what I did was, so you can see, I just trimmed the end like that, cut this a little shorter, and I'll have to trim this. And then added my bow to the end. So I'm not going to finish this card up tonight. I wanted to give you a chance to see how I colored in my flowers. I'll finish this one up, and when it's done, I'll post it. So here are our cards. Let's get these blends out of the way. That's what happens. I use so many blends when I color. So I hope you liked these cards tonight. I had a lot of fun doing them. And just so I can remind Kathy Fierst, I believe that's how you say your name was picked for sharing last week's video. So I'd like to get the Dazzling Diamonds in the mail to you. If you could PM me your address, I would appreciate it. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you had a really great Thanksgiving, and I so much appreciate you joining me tonight. Thank you. So, I'll have everything in the room tomorrow. I hope you got some tips and tricks about coloring with blends. And I'll talk to you soon. Have a great Friday. You're welcome, Fran. Thank you, Karen. Everybody have a great, great night. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.